Hi, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today and really appreciate your time to share with us, your time this sessions, and we'll be happy to also share with you some of the tips and tricks about designing experiences for citizens. So my name is Vicky, and together with my colleague Eugene, we come from the Digital Innovation and Design Practice for NUS-ISS. So our domain area is in the areas of service design, design thinking, as well as digital marketing. So at NUS-ISS, we conduct a series of courses for our public class as well as corporate customers, some of them from the government agencies, and we handle a lot of workshops and coaching sessions with our students. So today we're going to share with you some of our experiences with regards to designing experiences. So before I start, just a quick introduction of myself. So I'm actually from the industries, spent quite a bit of time in the industry, in the customer experience and digital marketing area, mainly from Asia Pacific MNCs. All right, in across different industries such as consumer technology, electronics, e-commerce, telecommunications, education now, and also a short stint with the government previously. So I have moved into the next area, which is the education in the CET sector, and I've actually brought some of these experiences to share with our participants in our various classes. So basically, move from brand building to capabilities building, which I'm really excited about. Next, I'll get Eugene to share with you.
Hello, hi, I'm Eugene. I joined ISS last year only. So before that, I spent a decade in the IT services consulting industry as a UX strategist as well as a digital transformation consultant. So this is kind of like the key highlights, right? Before I joined ISS, in my career spanning over a decade, right? Working on digital transformation projects and UX projects across the IT industry. Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to start the talk, about designing experiences. I'm going to share the why of design, why we need to design experiences for citizens. Next. So we're going to have a bit of fun, a bit of activities, a few polls along the way. So could you also just take out your mobile phone, scan the QR code here, or you can go to your browser and key in the URL that you see here, poev.com/NUSISS. So when we have the polls, you will see them and you can respond right during certain parts of the presentation. Okay, so I just start. I think the past year really highlighted the significance of this quote from the CEO of Microsoft. Right, it's almost like the method of survival that organizations leverage software as a core capability, and we need to recognize that whatever business that we are in, right, that we somehow software plays a very key part, in helping us, deliver value. Okay. So yeah, software permeates every aspect of our life, right? Yeah, the nature of software makes it ideal to continuously create value for those we serve. So you look at this list here, there's nothing, from our meals, right, to learning, to listening, to entertainment, to exercising, to our daily finance, this software literally supports us in all the various activities. There's very little that we don't do without interacting with some application or software. Next. So I just want to quickly run a poll here, right? Software as a service, right? How does this benefit citizens?
So you could go to your mobile phone and then key in your answers on the URL just now, the polev.com/NUS-ISS.
See the word convenient, easy, definitely. Self-help, cheaper, wider, yes, definitely. It's more efficient, more effective, smooth, easy, meets the needs, fast, fast transactions. Yeah. So to summarize, right, for all the the response that we see here, at least that it's really about that simplicity, right? I would say the word is here is about simplicity. That is so easy, to access the services, so easy to transact. It's about having that convenience, right, and making it convenient and efficient, right, for citizens to transact with the government. So thank you for that. Let's go to the next one. And speaking about then as software as a core capability, right? It's really about also changing how we work. When we want to create software, we want to leverage on software. This is really about knowledge work. And knowledge is actually created in collaboration. It's not manufactured linearly on assembly line, right? The industrial management model, right? It actually makes it very difficult to orient, our organizational silos to work together, right? It has to change. Organization needs to change if you want to leverage software as an enabler. Next. Right. So to embrace software effectively, right? Each organization, it needs to behave more like an organism rather than a machine, right? It needs to function as an interactive network. It's no longer a top-down bureaucracy. So this mindset is also a mindset and culture change, right? And it has to extend beyond those who are directly involved. It's a change in the way the whole organization is led and managed, right? Next. So much so that, the Singapore economy, is rapidly transforming. It's increasingly being digitized. There's a lot of adoption of technology at the workplace. It's so much so that Skills Future, right? They define a list of soft skills to keep up with this future economy, right? In fact, if you look at all the skills here, many, actually, if not most of the skills that you see here, right, are taught in the design practices. Now, practices like design thinking, service design, user experience design, right? We actually make use of the majority of the skills, and we also teach the majority of the skills that you see here. Next. And when we're designing services for citizens, right, one key consideration here is that there's this exchange of value that we have to be mindful of. Right? We want citizens to do something that is beneficial and ultimately contributes back to the society. So designing services that are simple to use help to facilitate the exchange of value. So to expand on it, right? So when you talk about human-centered design practices, it really matters in digitalization and transformation. Why? I'll go through 4 points. Number one is problem solving, right? We really teach. We teach problem solving at the root cause. That means we actually get to learn how to find out the problems at the root cause. So instead of building, better mousetraps, right? We actually look at what is the problem that we're trying to solve in the first place. Right. The second reason, there's a saying, right? If Henry Ford had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. We tend to talk in features and solutions that we are already aware of, but this results in me too incremental type of innovation. So never ask people for solutions, right? But instead, we should ask them for the criteria they use to decide if the solution works for them or not. That's how we gain the vision we need, right, in order to innovate, right? So importantly, talking to people is very key to designing, digital products, right, or services, that people will use. Next. And we have to learn to see the bigger picture. See, because our world is not defined by the boundaries of our job, neither is it defined by the boundaries of our organization, right? The interdependencies as well as the complications, right? It's actually where the magic happens, right? This is where we can really find, impetus for change or to produce new solutions, right? That will really serve the needs, right? Because we want the service to be as complete as possible. Thanks. So, and IT resources, they are scarce, right? They are expensive, right? It's best to validate value before committing anything, before building anything. And human-centered design practice actually teaches us how to test, how to refine concepts. Before even you code a line of code. So it helps, right, for us to, number one, justify the value, right? Justify for investment, right? Before we even want to build anything, right? So it's efficient. Thanks. So now I'll pass over to Vicky.
Yeah, so you've heard a lot about what Eugene just mentioned about why it is important to design experiences for citizens, right? And because citizens today have been very used to new experiences, especially from the private sector, especially from global MNCs, they have a very seamless experience, and therefore the level of expectations and their level of anticipation of what government can do for them is not going to be any less. So it is important then for us to really relook on how can we make government services better for citizens as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the how. So first of all, just to share with you, there's lots of tools and techniques out there, okay, that can help us with the how. How do you design good citizens experiences? So because service design thinking have been around for a while and it's been used quite a bit in a lot of the private organizations, we can also borrow some of these tools and techniques to apply to a government context. All right, so these are some examples on the screen that you see is what our students actually do in class. And actually, these are some of the corporate problems that they bring to class. And we work with them to coach them on how to think through some of these techniques using a very structured method. And then how do we actually understand what the problem is, getting to the root cause, as Eugene mentioned, and taking a very human-centered approach, okay, to problem solving. So one of the key principles for adopting this human-centered design, all right, is this principle of empathy. So because we are designing experiences and experiences revolve around humans, it is very important to have empathy for your users, empathy for your citizens. And this is the first step before you can design anything. Now, empathy is not so easy to come by, right? It actually requires effort. It requires an open mind, and it requires a certain commitment to to take the perspective of the people you're designing for. And you need to look into how your user see things, so taking their lens and to understand what they hear, what they think, as well as how they feel. So all these are the possible methods out there, different research methods, which you probably have heard before, that is helpful to help us first understand the users and to understand what they see, hear, think, and feel, and have a lot of empathy with them before we design the experiences. So instead of just explaining this, I've decided to do a quick activity with you. All right. So if you could take out your mobile phones as well, we're going to continue to use PoEV to do an activity together. Now I'm going to so for those of you who need the QR code, so we prefer if you use the mobile phone because it's easier for you to keep on Zoom and as well as use your mobile phone to respond. You could just scan the QR code. Now I've picked a scenario, okay, for this example. Some of you may have gone through a similar experience before. Okay, so and in those cases, I will encourage you to think about your previous experiences that you have with this scenario. Okay, so you have to recall a little bit what you went through. And some of you may be very lucky, never had the experience firsthand yourself. So then you may want to recall the stories that was being told to you, maybe by your friends, your family, or your colleagues. Okay, so let's try this. All right, so this is the scenario. So this is a warm and sunny day, and it's a typical HDB 4-room flat in Singapore. Mr. Tan lives here. He's 65 years old, and he lives here with his wife. So today, Mr. Tan decides that he wants to cook something special for lunch. So he goes to the kitchen and decides to look through his shelves for a long lost recipe passed down from his family. As he can't reach the top shelves, he decides, all right, to get a chair and climb up to the chair to open the top shelf. And suddenly, as he reaches out to open the top shelf, he loses his balance and he fell to the ground. So Mrs. Tan heard the commotion and then started to run into the kitchen. Okay, so at this point, if you can take out your phone, I'm going to ask you to type in some response. So imagine or think about this similar situation that you have had. Maybe not exactly the same, but a similar situation that you have had in your own experiences. What would you do in this situation? You can type in the phone. Okay, 995. Okay, we give you some time to help him out. All right, ask him if he's okay. Yes, check his injury. All right, what else would you do as a sequence of steps? Okay, ask your neighbor for help. Check if he's okay. Yep. Okay, call 995. Okay, seems like calling 995 is a pretty uh, common option. Scream. Okay, and after screaming, check how he is and then call 995. Okay, so let's move on. So okay, assuming we call 995 and then the ambulance sends Mr. Tan, right, to the A&E. Okay, and then what happens at the A&E? So this is where you may want to recall some of your own experiences at the A&E. What do you see? What do you do? What happens at the A&E? Okay, you can now enter. Okay, take number, register, wait and wait, call insurance agent. Okay, that's interesting. Safe entry. Thank you. You guys remember your safe entry? Okay. Anything else? No? All of you have not much experience with the A&E. Okay. So seems like you'll be waiting here, waiting for something to happen, right? All right. So what will happen next? Okay. So at this point, while you're waiting at the A&E, kind of what goes through your mind? What are your thoughts? So again, I'm going to ask you to recall an experience you had when it comes to medical. Yeah. How long do I have to wait? Worried? Yeah. Can claim insurance. Okay. Is it serious? Okay, if Mr. Tan fractured his bone, if he's okay, so a lot of worry, yeah, anxiety, and when is my turn? And okay, a lot of worry about the bills. Even before Mr. Tan sees the doctor, you're worrying about the insurance and bills. Okay, where is Mr. Tan? Where is Mr. That's a good question. Normally, where does the patient go, and where does the people accompany the patient go? Are they at the same place? Okay, does he need hospital stays, etc.? All right. Okay, so there's a lot of things that go through your mind, a lot of thoughts. Okay, so kind of keep in view this kind of thoughts. And what about the next thing? Well, how do you feel? So besides about thinking about all these problems of the bills, problems of whether he's okay, what are some of the feelings that go through your mind? Okay, anxious, frustrated, stressful, helpless. Yeah, I think that's a good one. You feel very uncertain. Yeah. On one hand, you worry about Mr. Tan, but you also worry about other things. Okay. On the other hand, there is this whole uncertainty and also scared, right? About what else could happen. And impatience as well. Frustrated, impatience, you're tired, and yet you're worried. So think about all these emotions and the feelings, that goes through your mind, when such a situation arises. Okay, and I'm sure this is not the first time, some of us has experienced this. So as citizens, this is something pretty common, I think, judging by the number of people at the A&E. So this is, and if you're designing an experience for the citizens, think about how the people there are feeling. Okay, so this is quite important when we look at designing new experiences, because to really understand the state of mind, the state of emotions, that your user is under that particular context. Okay, so let's move on. So of course, in the A&E, typically it goes through triage, right, where someone will assess how serious is your injury, whether there's blood, whether it's life threatening, etc. And then they will classify the patients into different tiers. And of course, if yours is not life threatening, then you probably have to wait a little bit longer. And then eventually the nurse would come and take some measurements, yeah, and then check some of the vital statistics. And then finally, the doctor would come. And eventually, if it needed, you'll be warded in the hospital, in this case for Mr. Tan. All right, so this is a very simple journey that you go through. Some of us may have gone through, kind of done this a couple of times. And I guess one of the questions we have as the next one is, what are your biggest pain point during this whole journey? Besides the physical pain, right? What would be your biggest pain point? If you are Mr. Tan, or if you are the family members, or even if you are the daughter or son, on the line, who's not there yet. Okay, uncertainty, long wait doing nothing. Yeah, unsure what to do, don't know the process. Yep, I think that's always a killer, because the more you don't know, the more anxious you are. Financially, what's going to happen? Yeah, rush to wait to rush sounds a little bit familiar. Can the process be faster? Okay, so it looks like there's a whole lot of questions we have, right? Like people do not really know, what is happening in this situation. And if you're designing this process, can you make it better? Can you help your users who's going to have all these emotions and all these thoughts going through their mind, to make it easier for them? So one of the tools that we use quite often in service design is what we call the journey map. So a journey map is quite simple. It has got two axes. The vertical axis is what we call the emotion axis. Anything above the line is happy, anything below is sad. And then we have the horizontal axis, which is time. So essentially, you're plotting your journey, the journey that I just went through with you, right, across time. So the actions, what the user do, and the emotions, okay, are being plotted in this journey map. And what's important is this tool is useful for you to identify opportunities for innovation. So going back from the previous example, this is how you would possibly plot, the journey map. So the thing in the squares are the actions, and then you're going to plot emotions after that. Okay, so this is what happens, right? A series of events, a series of what you do. We call the ambulance. The medical staff helps you, so you're a little bit happier. And then you see the long Q&A. Your emotions go all the way down again, and then you have to wait. All right, and then you go through triage. The nurse take measurements. You're a little bit happier, and then you got to wait again for the doctor, and then eventually you get to see the doctor. All right, and then you may have to wait again for the hospital ward to be available, depending on which class ward you choose, and then eventually you are you're being warded. So along the way, you could then type in the emotions. So some of these are similar to what you guys have gone through, right? About impatience, worried, stressed, sometimes relief, sometimes anxious, sometimes uncertain, frustrated, sometimes grateful that someone is helping you, but at the same time tired as well. And finally, a little bit more assured when you know um, you're being admitted. Okay, so based on this journey map itself, what you can do is actually identify where are the areas of opportunities, right, that you want to improve on. So, for example, the ones that are under the bottom of the chart is where there are possible opportunities, to enhance and to improve. And those above the chart maybe has the opportunity to make it even better. So as you sort of examine the journey of your user, you could then identify the different opportunities and the pain points along the way, and then think about how could you redesign this and make this better for them. So the key takeaway for this quick little exercise, thanks for those of you who participate, is to walk into the shoes, of your users, identify the pain points and the opportunities in their experiences, and then redesign, the whole experiences for them.
Thanks, Vicky. Yeah, so Wiki has helped, to create that initial understanding of the journey, and they've identified problems, and other opportunities, where the pain points are, where are the parts where the person going through the journey is the most anxious or frustrated, for example. So the second activity is, once you kind of understand, have a bit better context of the issue and the problem, then you can actually bring all this information, all this the information right into what we call a collaborative ideation. So this is the next activity that we are going to do. Well, not this. So when we talk about collaborative ideation, it's not about just having long meetings where everybody's just talking over each other, everybody's doing their own thing. It's really a very structured process, right? A way to run a session. This is something that we teach in our classes, right? How to actually do this, and it's also very respectful. Number one, of everybody who participates in the activity, also very, very respectful of the time that we ask of people. So these are the very key principles that we practice, as designers. So next, again, get your phone ready, or you can type in the URL on this because we have some activities coming up. Okay, so you saw the journey map that Wiki has shown, right? And there are certain high points and low points. So there's let's maybe as a group then select which part do we want to address. So there's a lot of waiting, right? At which point can we create a moment that simplifies the whole experience? Give it a bit of time. Okay, great. I think we have a winner, right? Most of you select the A and E as the point that we want to address while we actually to simplify the whole experience. So often when we do ideation, right, we also want to make sure, we want to be inspired. So we want to bring in, we want to have a feel of what technology is happening, in the space, to try to understand. And then we use that as a way to help us to ideate. So I'm going to talk a bit about what we do in some of our what we teach, right? It's what we call a lightning talk, right? So next. So this, I'm not going to talk about Apple glasses. I think there have been a lot of rumors about this, but I just want to use this as an example. So I mean, in recent years, recently, right, you start to see more of these rumors, like this is very high possibility. Why is it? It's because of number one, 5G. 5G, with the coming of 5G, right, with data latency, data being fast, you can transfer fast over the network. You can actually do a lot of your computing power in the cloud, right? And because of that, you don't have to carry a lot of the computer chips on your device or make it very heavy. So it really makes the enables device like your glasses, whatever physical items that you may have, to become smart, which is what the promise of 5G is, right? Which is actually to make IoT, Internet of Things, right, a reality. That means all your devices can become smart. All physical devices can even become like smart devices. So that's really the promise of 5G. So there has been a lot of talk about how the application of this in healthcare, right? And I've listed. I mean, here you can see some of the users in healthcare. For example, connected ambulances, where they can actually even start to do triage in the ambulance itself. Or you can even look at things like remote surgery, because of the high bandwidth speed, right? You can actually stream the whole, it's almost like real time, right? And it's a transmission of information, right, between the caregiver and the patient. Or you can do, or it's about sensing, right? About sensors, connecting and understanding, monitoring, patient vitals activity. So these are some of these ideas that are out there, right? That's happening in the healthcare space. So let's go to the next activity. And then with 5G, Internet of Things, in mind, right? How can we use that to simplify the experience? Come, let's ideate. Let's go for quantity. And of course, when you are submitting your ideas, right, you can also look at those ideas, other ideas that people have submitted, and then say, hey, does it inspire you, to think of more ideas? So on the spot diagnosis, yep. Prevent falls first, so you don't even need to go to the hospital, right? Ambulances, they can do the triage. They have the doctors, right? So a lot of these ideas, seem to have, help to shift the diagnosis upstream, right? So that you don't have to come to the actual hospital itself to do it. Medical calls at home. Keep the ideas coming. Any more ideas? Real-time update on the status, heart rate. Yes, probably. I think there's a question earlier, right, about how do I know the status of Mr. Tan. So maybe something like that can help, ease the anxiousness of, the person taking care of Mr. Tan. Okay, you can be examined at home. You can help with you can detect falls, for example. So a lot of good ideas that is here. So this, in a sense, what we are showing here, right? It's about bringing people together, inspiring people, getting everybody to contribute ideas, to build the ideas of others. So you can see this whole experience being done without any discussion, without any like what you see in meetings, right? People trying to talk louder, talk over each other, have their ideas, And then with these ideas, we can then vote on those ideas, and then we can subsequently build them into concepts that we can test. So in part, this is really about bringing you through the experience, of going through this whole experience of going from finding out what the problem is to coming out with ideas, right? Yeah. So thank you for all the submissions. Can we go to the expect? So the key takeaway that I mentioned from this whole activity is that with this principle we actually practice when we do ideation. It's called alone together. Although this hashtag here is really more about because of the pandemic, right? They actually use this hashtag. I kind of borrowed this. I steal from this tagline. Because of the pandemic, they talk about safe distancing and how you can be alone together. But in fact, when we are doing running workshops, right, this principle is a very key principle when you're helping bring people together, number one, but giving them that space, to be creative, to come up ideas, and everybody having almost like a very democratized way of working through ideation together, and then as a way to identify what ideas would you like to take to the next step. So this is a very key principle that we actually teach, right, and we during our classes. Okay.
Okay, so what we've just kind of brought you through is two simple activities, right? But it is important because it gives you a different perspective and have a different mindset when it comes to designing experiences for citizens. So one of them is the empathy, right? Being able to talk to your users, getting the information from your users, and getting to really understand what your user goes through. Okay, we did a little mini exercise, but this is a key element and a principle that is needed for if you want to redesign services for citizens. The second piece is what we did for a quick ideation. Now it's kind of difficult to do ideation on Zoom, but it is a very powerful tool, right? If we can bring the right people together, and within a very short time, you could actually come up with lots of new ideas and lots of new solution, bouncing off, collaborative thoughts with each other, and then coming out with something that's tangible. Okay, so this is the two areas which I think is important. And at the end of the day, to really want to do this, you need to adopt a different mindset and a different lens, okay, to do this well. So one of the key elements of doing a seamless service delivery, right, is also very important because we mentioned that the real power, this is from Deloitte, that the real power of digital, okay, really happens when you put three areas together. So one of them is to create an experience in itself, okay, that is personalized, frictionless, and proactive. So I guess that's the goal of many governments across the world, and many businesses as well. It's like the question on how do you really create an experience that is personalized and seamless, frictionless, right, and even proactive, being able to predict, right? So one of those trends would be things like trying to build experiences around the life experiences of the life milestones of your citizens, being able to anticipate what your citizens would be needing because of certain demographics or parameters, being able to then also use data, right, to personalize the experience itself. So to do all this actually requires quite a lot of thinking. And one of the key areas of designing a seamless experience for your citizens is to rethink the operations. So it's not just about the front end service, okay, for your citizens in itself. In fact, it is the whole back end that needs to change along the way. So, for example, to support a seamless service experience, you actually need to look at service design, sort of like an end-to-end service design. You need to look at your back-end processes, workflows, right? And even the delivery platforms, data and technology. So behind the scenes, there could be a whole lot of things that you will need to do and you need to change in order to deliver the experiences for your citizens. So it's quite important to take that lens and to have that commitment, okay, to be able and willing to make that adjustments and change. And that's where transformation truly happens, when you could rethink certain way of doing things. So one of the key areas about service design that I mentioned is about designing that whole service journey in itself. So the service design talks about the whole process of problem discovery. All right, thinking about what is the problem we are solving here. Actually, what is the actual problem that is important? What's the root cause, and not just the symptoms. So just now when we were doing the A&E exercise, right, we thought that the problem is waiting time. Yeah, but is that the real problem? Are there something else beyond that? Is there a root cause that we don't know? Okay, and that's where the problem discovery phase is very important, to deep dive and to go into the details about exactly why is certain things done this way. And then after we define the right problem, done the research and also understanding the citizens needs, etc., you then come with a product conceptualization. So earlier we did a little bit of brainstorming, okay, on possible solutions, and this is where you will do the ideation process and then conceptualize the kind of problems that you want, um, and conceptualize the kind of product that is going to be created to solve the problem. Then, of course, you need to justify your solution, all right, your concepts, and that's where thinking through the possible metrics, okay, and thinking through the possible areas that how you're going to measure will be important. And then creating a minimum viable product, MVP, and then to measure the success of this MVP, and then iterate, right, and then go back again. So this is the whole kind of big picture of service design. And along the way, where you are doing product conceptualization, you want to design the touch points, and that's where the user experience design comes in. Okay, so be it we are doing an app, an IoT kind of application, or you are doing a website, for example, or even a kiosk, that's where all your touch points is, and that's where the user experience design comes in to help you create and design and optimize that touch points. And then along the way, of course, to measure value, you will need your analytics, okay, to inform you of whether your solution is useful, whether your solution is viable. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to wrap up that we do have a service design class, a digital user experience class, and a web analytics and SEO class. And this is especially contextualized for the digital academy. All right, so feel free to reach out if you want to look into some of these areas, and if you need help in actually redesigning experiences for your citizens, we are very happy to help you with that. Okay, and yeah, contact us at NUS-ISS if you need anything. This is our new building, actually, this artist impression, but we have actually just moved into our new building, so we look forward to having you there as well. Okay, do come and visit us. Yeah, so thank you very much for your time.
So there are
So
some questions
yeah,
on
so
the
we'll
chat.
open up for any Q&A.
Yeah, so maybe just to answer some of these questions, we see the examples that you feel are good design cases. I like to use my own emotions as a litmus test, right, when I'm using any government service. So if I feel that it's so simple to use, right, to the extent, so typically I would mention some of these good examples that I really see being done, right, things like ThinkPass, right, how it has really moved from just a sign-in, lock-in credential to, be able to see all the various services, right, all the data that I need, all of my data, right, in one place. And I can just use it so easily to transact with any government service. So I think that's a really, really good example of a good of design bringing simplicity, right, to citizens, right. Um,
Yeah, so I think SingPass was one of the good examples that has kind of make things easier for us as well. I also like things like the parking app, parking.sg app, because it's very simple and easy to use, and more importantly, it gives you that control, and it also allows you to um, to decide, and allows you to have that control on when you want to start and stop your parking charges, for example. So that is in itself a important element when it comes from design cases. Yeah, so I think Singapore, we have come quite a long way, and I think many of your government agencies have been really improving on some of these cases. I guess some of the areas where designing for citizens can improve. That's the next question, right? What are the areas for improvement? Well, possibly, maybe in terms of the B2B area, things like applying for certain, um, maybe restaurants, food permits, maybe helping small businesses, to navigate through um, certain services. That is probably areas for improvement. Yeah, and also, well, recently I have the experience of trying to apply for a foreign domestic worker. Although there's lots of information on the website, but being able to navigate it the first time, is probably takes some time and effort to go through that process. So things like that could be possibly simplified, right? It could be supported in a way, because not to forget that citizens actually, some of the services that we use, we don't do it all the time, right? It's not like e-commerce transaction. You do shopping every day, every other week. That you are very, very familiar with what to do in terms of the user experience for e-commerce. A lot of the government transactions, you probably do it once in a while, or once, or twice, in a lifetime. So then it makes it even more important, to make it easy and simple, because if your user is going to come in fresh, then how do you then guide them through, the entire experience itself? Yeah.
just want to add, when we want to talk about designing for citizens, right? Sometimes we also have to take time to slow down at the start to be able to talk to citizens. I find that there's a lot of time we tend to rush through this phase, maybe because there's a timeline or there's some timeline or deadline that's being involved. But I think we tend to miss out a lot of things that opportunities that we could have discovered. So either there's a saying, right? You have to go slow in order to go fast, right? And I think the slowing down, the slowing part is very important, especially when we are doing projects, right? Because this is the part that's worth investing on, because this is the part that actually will help to provide, give you that vision and what to do and how to improve, how to create new innovations, right, downstream for your citizens. So I think one of the key principles I would say here when it comes to what is lacking or what needs to be improved, right, is, we sometimes have to slow down. We sometimes really, really have to slow down. We sometimes have to really talk to understand and talk, and then identify some of these areas that are being unmet, right? Before then, we can then really move rapidly into the subsequent phases, right, to develop the concepts and all.
Yep. So there's one more question. What is the simple and user-friendly tool that can be used for virtual and physical service design workshop? Okay, so first of all, there are many tools out there. So think of it as a toolbox, as a toolkit. Okay, um, and not every tool is suitable for every situation. So really, for if you're talking about workshop, if you're talking about wanting to design a solution for a problem, often we need to understand the context, all right, and why we are doing this, and then we'll just pick and choose the right tool at the right time. Yeah. So today we showed you a simple tool called the journey map. But is the journey map usable for every situation? Probably not. But this is quite useful if you are trying to plot an experience. And then we did a little bit of ideation, right? So ideation is also a tool, a bit of a brainstorming tool, right? That we can use when it comes to workshops and coming up with ideas. But there are many ways of executing that. Yeah. So when you ask about what's a simple and user-friendly tool, I can tell you there are many. We've done this for physical as well as virtual. So one of the virtual so-called software we use is a Miro, for something like a giant whiteboard, right? Endless whiteboard that you can put post-it pads on, which is going to be the same as what we do in the physical class, which is a giant board with post-its. Okay, so but that's just the tools, right? But what is important is what goes inside the tool, right? And that is where we need to understand the users, and there'll be research techniques that we have to go through. We need to generate the kind of content and the information to really get an interesting outcome, at the end of it.
In fact, we have kind of gone hybrid in a sense, where we integrate virtual and physical together, right? Because we find that there's actually is like a best of both worlds approach to running workshops. So we kind of integrate. We have physical classes, but we also integrate Miro into the classes, so that it's easy to just take away all this collaboration that you've done, and you don't have to keep taking pictures and stuff. I find that there's really a best of both worlds approach, right? That we have really implemented.
Yep. Does any one of you have any particular examples to share? You can put that in the chat, or any scenarios or questions, that you would like us to comment on. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions? Okay, so if there are no more questions, yeah, thank you for your attention. I hope we've given you a little bit of a taster of what it takes, to design the experiences. There's obviously a lot more to it that we can do, but it's best done, in a collaborative environment where we could see you and understand where you're coming from, and then we can do it together. But thank you for your time and your attention, and feel free to reach out to us when you have further questions or you need any clarifications.
Thank you.